today we got to play Tapestry. As of right now, supposedly
all in.
All the expansions.
So today's video will focus on the latest two expansions because we previously focused on the base and the first one.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at arts and architecture,
and
as well as
fantasies and futures.
So those are kind of the ones that we're going to be mostly talking about. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are amazing and that's what we do here at Legends of Nomada. Now, we do have a few good ones coming up too, specifically with some new releases, so we're excited to share those with you, so you definitely don't want to miss out. So Randy, tell us more about this game.
First of all, Tapestry, the base game, was a 2019 release. Tapestry Plants and Ploys, the first expansion, came out in 2020, and our previous video we covered those two. Now, this was the Arts and Architecture expansion. It came out in 2021. We hadn't gotten it to the table until just recently. And then Fantasies and Futures was a 2023 release. It's brand new, just got it in. So we wanted to go ahead and combine them all and focus our attention specifically on the latest two.
And I'll take any excuse to play Tapestry, so.
So what is new about these new expansions? Well, first of all, so Arts and Architecture expansion, what it adds to the game is new capital city mats, new advancement track, which we'll get into more detail when we talk about the gameplay, new cards and tiles, and there's obviously more Tapestry progress tech cards, and they add more landmarks. Now, the Fantasies and Futures one, this one's going to give you a little shock when you get it because all the other ones come in nice boxes. This one just comes in an envelope. It looks like it's something you would get in the mail. And it is not adding any none of the landmark buildings like the other ones do. But this one has 10 new civilizations, 6 advanced capital cities, 38 new Tapestry cards, 12 new tech cards, and the most important thing to me, it has a combined rulebook. So it compiles everything from all of the games into one rulebook. And this is very much needed. Because otherwise you got like 10 rule books floating around your table. So the design on all these was Jamie Stegmaier. He had Mike Young with him on the expansion. Art, Andrew Bosley, published by Stonemaier Games. Now, the MSRP for Arts and Architecture, this one is $50. I didn't go looking around to see all the prices, but Card House, I checked there because that's our usual go-to, is $34.49. Now, the Fantasies and Futures expansion is got an MSRP of $25. Card House has it for $18.39. So that's your pricing out there. There may be other ones that are slightly higher, slightly cheaper, but you're looking at about $20 for one and $35 for the other if you go online.
All right, so as Randy mentioned, we're kind of going into quality of components. There's a few upgrades. Specifically, you did get some landmarks with Arts and Architecture, as well as the player boards and things like that. They stay consistent within the quality of those additional pieces. So I don't really know.
There's nothing new about, I mean, it's all impressive.
It's a lot of the same awesomeness.
Yes. Except for, the only disappointment is literally that envelope, because I was expecting a nice box like all these other ones. They even have the nice
if they weren't going to add any of bigger items, then that makes sense.
I can understand it's. I just don't know if it's all going to fit in the boxes because the boxes are already packed pretty tight. So we'll have to see if it fits in there because I just trashed the envelope because it was not going to look very pretty on the shelf anyway. So I've got to get all those pieces from the new expansion into the other boxes. I'm hoping they'll fit.
Yeah, good luck. All right, so scoring wise, there's nothing really. It's the same. Let's move on to the actual theme. Again, it's Tapestry. Except there's a little bit different. So yeah, so you have arts and architecture. So before you experience, the science track, exploration, battling, technology and science. Now you've added the arts, right? That's another part of civilization that they've kind of increased with. And then the architecture is allowing for new boards, I think.
Well, it's basically, it's the creative side. So they added all the cards had stuff to do with creativity. So I had oil paint was one of the progress cards I got. So there's things that are art related, and they have additional cards that give you abilities for your stats.
I mean, and I think that just all aligns with the already in theme, just making it a little more entrenched to add that piece too, because that was something that was missing as far as thematically go about building your civilization with that. So I thought that was a good addition.
Yeah, and then the Fantasies and Futures, it's all sci-fi and fantasy themed, so all of the stuff there is not based on reality. It's like monsters and things. So you've got all your characters are like werefolk and fays and
transmogrification is what I got.
Yeah. So there's it adds the paranormal and the mysterious, and one of the nice things that comes with it is it takes more advantage of the space tokens. Because that was something that I always felt was lacking in the base Tapestry. When you get all the way to the end of the exploration track, you go into space, but you only go to 3 tiles, and there's a whole stack of tiles, and most people are not going to ever use them. So now you've got cards that let you gain them and abilities that let you gain them. So I thought that added another element to the game of utilizing those space tokens more.
Yeah. So overall theme, again, I think it's more of the awesomeness. I don't know if I would increase its ranking.
I think it's slightly better because it adds in a few more dimensions to the game that aren't there. And I do think they've done a good job of integrating like the new boards. One of the things we haven't really gone into, we'll get into a little bit, is they give you more advanced boards, but they're set with the theme. So you've got like going into the underworld and you have to fight monsters, or you have different areas that have things to do with a fantasy world, which I like that.
I liked mermaids. I had I had the choice of mermaids, but I didn't like their special ability because I was like, I don't ever go after green cards. This is not the special ability for me. But I thought they were super cool, and the artwork, as always, was excellent on the new artwork. So
it's been a while since we reviewed this one.
Yeah, that's why I'm afraid to give it a score.
I'm going to go slightly higher. I think I gave it probably about I don't know if it was 8, 8.5. I'm going to go give it a 9 now. I think because it's added in those other elements, it's upped its game slightly.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked this game, so.
And I mean, and the buildings are always beautiful. Yeah. And they've added new buildings, which I think are more fantasy themed, or castles.
Oh, no, I was so excited, guys. I have to show it to you. You have a really cool drawbridge. Like, I now want to actually make something off my map. And then obviously
the castle's wonderful.
The castle is absolutely gorgeous. It's a very unique shape, though. That's interesting.
I love this really vibrant rainbow colored, kind of multicolored building. I don't know what it is, but I love the oranges.
So
that's really cool.
Honestly, I'm down with what they're giving out. So I think it's supposed to be like that. So like I said, I enjoyed. I agree with you. All right. So now moving on to the rule book. You're very excited that they combined everything.
Yes, this makes it so much easier. First of all, the other ones were like full box-sized rule books. They were thin. They didn't have very many pages. That was one of the impressive things about Tapestry is this game it's not real complex, but it does have a level of complexity to it.
There's plenty of strategy involved, but the actual taking of your turn is very, you go up a track, you spend the resources to do that, and then you take the action. So the biggest thing is the iconography and the strategy behind how am I spending my resources? Where am I focusing? So in that aspect, it's a lot of, you can get people in quickly. They may, at the end of it, be like, I totally did that wrong, but that's okay. Yeah. That's part of learning.
So it was previously, the rulebook was 4 pages long, but, it was impressive because this is like a medium level game. It's not entry level. It's not super difficult. I would call it a straight medium level game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the iconography that can get people, I think, is the tricksy part, because if people aren't used to it, then that's where it can get, I'm sure people could get hung up on something that they're not familiar with. So, but
it used to be you had the rule book, and then you had 2 kind of iconography charts that you had to pass around the table, and they were all full-size pages. Now you've got this one book. It's very small. This one doesn't come with a cheat sheet. It would be nice to have one that was this size. That would be ideal. But what it does do very well, the components in this, they got the pictures, they got the number. and they've got what sets to expect them from.
Oh, okay, so it's very straightforward.
So it tells you, what you're combining together, because once you put it together, you're not going to separate it.
There's no need to, because there are some games you're like, oh, I don't want to add that stuff to it. It makes it more whatever. This, it's seamless. Like it felt like it belongs. Like it's not that big of an adjustment. Once you've integrated it, I don't think you're going to want to go back.
Right. Then the setup is super. I mean, it's there's a lot to get out, but it's pretty simple to set up on the board. The big issue here is it's a huge table hog, and it became more of a table hog with the add-on of the arts in particular, because that takes up more space. Not to mention we've got 3 boxes piled up with all these buildings in them that you have to pull out. So you're going to need a big table or tables with auxiliary tables like we use.
I'm okay with it, though. It's awesome.
Yeah. This rule book actually goes to 32 pages. That's the downside of it. It's longer, but it is smaller. And the actual gameplay is really still about the same length. The gameplay goes to a total of 15 pages. Then it goes into variants and the iconography. And then it goes through the references for all the tracks, which was on the auxiliary sheets before. So they've put it in here. I would like to add an auxiliary, but they also have the tech cards and talk about each one of them, which is nice. So it gives you a walkthrough. Now, what we had problems with was not the tech cards. We had questions about the boards and these mats that have the new advanced rules, because the old mats didn't have any rules. They just had dots on them to show where you couldn't play, and they were straightforward. Now these new mats that are the challenge mats, if you will, they have restrictions on them, and some of them are not clear. Particularly the caverns one that I had was very confusing.
Well, I mean, I think we figured it out.
We assumed, but there was no place online to even find the answer. So, there's a lot of things it felt like that needed more clarification that were not clarified in here.
With caverns, I think once we figured it out, I think you're a little over. I mean, some of it may seem obvious, but if you're not, Randy likes to know for certain before we play a certain way, and you don't have that certain, you have this is probably a 95% chance, let's run with it. So, and Randy likes a little more surety.
Well, I mean,
when it comes to his rules.
I take them very literally, and literally it said you can't play in the second and third rows unless the quadrant or whatever above it was completed. Well, if you're at the top quadrant, there's nothing above it, but you would probably have significant difficulty
because there's nothing above it.
You have significant difficulty of playing it where you couldn't put anything in the second or third row.
It's already filled.
They should have called that out in it. But in general, it's still pretty good. This is much more user friendly to have at the table than those big sheets, because you're already have no space. I mean, you can see this is a mess right now. This is not how we like to normally demonstrate things, but we have no choice because it's
a large game,
a huge table hog.
But I'm okay with it, so it's fine.
So, as far as this new rule book, I like this a lot. It's I'm going to go ahead and give this a 9. I think it does an outstanding job, even though there's just a lot of things to clarify, because there's so many cards, there's so many maps, there's so many of everything that it would be difficult to put together a rule book that clarified everything. So I can understand why things could be a little confusing on a few cards.
All right, so now let's move on to the actual gameplay. So just a general synopsis of Tapestry. During your turn, you are going to move up one of the tracks. Now, in the expansion, we are adding a 5th track. So that, like we mentioned before, is the art. So you're going to, the resource here is at the top. So during my turn, I'm going to, for example, if I was moving up this track, I would spend a money bag and 2 other resources, and I will move up and take the action. Okay, so there's no difference on the art side, except the art kind of focuses more on this new ability of, creating masterpieces. And those masterpieces give you income during your reset phase. So that's really, can be very, very useful.
2. There's that, and then there's these the tiles, the upgrade tiles that you can play on their, I think Insight is what causes them to get them.
And honestly, if I had realized how awesome these were.
Yeah.
I probably should have focused that with what I had.
Yeah.
Because
they will increase your stats as far as victory points production significantly if you get them.
The crazy, but you still have to get them out, right?
Yeah.
So I did get to use one during that last round, and it was so pretty. It was so useful.
Still didn't help you catch me, but
yeah. So, and then the other piece is the mat. So the other differences is before, we're gonna slide this off so we can see. So a standard map is, pretty generic. It has red dots that you can't place, aka rivers, because you can't build on rivers in this world. However, the new ones have some additional rules and some additional placement. Wow, this one's super weird. So it's got these wavy lines going on for each of the 6 districts in a path located beneath one magnetic field. Okay, so about magnetic fields. Okay, so that looks very, very different.
yes.
But then, like, this one's very brickish, so the districts have shifted a little bit on this one. So, and there's additional rules. So that was the...
those were originally introduced in the arts and architecture, but there was more of them and more fantasy themed that came with this new the Fantasies and Futures expansion.
Okay. And then, obviously, we also got some new, I got the Artificer. He was able to move these buildings around to unlock or to move and where you could picture some of the cooler stuff available to you. So that was pretty nifty. But there were, again, other ones. Like I said, we had the mermaid, we had the werewolves, we had some really cool with the fantasy ones. So that's really kind of the big differences to add that got added with these 2 expansions, obviously, and more tech cards. Now, I had one problem with the tech cards. I'm not gonna lie. So there was, for the expansion tech cards, they had where you needed to play. So this one is, you can only upgrade the final stage if it's in round 5. So your last upgrade, so you get 1, right? How is this useful to remove it? Or you have to be able to put a landmark on it. That blows. Because a landmark is like a lot of victory points.
Well, it can be.
If you can fill it up. And I found it annoying. So I was not a fan.
Another thing that was added with these new expansions was there's a connection when you play your Tapestry cards where each round you put one down, where they might have some kind of perk on the left or right hand side of the card that triggers when it's adjacent to another card. And, some of the tech cards or the progress cards or whatever were dependent upon you having played one of those. And with that big stack of cards, and there's only a subset of them that are actually from those expansions that have those icons.
I think there was too many technology cards that had that.
Yeah, well, it may have just been the luck of the shuffles, but it's still, we got hit with early on. All of our cards had one of those restrictions.
Kept wiping the board, and they kept coming up.
Yes.
Well, because I was like, level 5. Okay, I'll pick 1 up because that's fine. At the end, I can do it in case I don't get 1.
Well, but there's way more Tapestry cards than there are progress cards.
Well, there was a lot of progress.
The Tapestry cards we didn't see until late in the game. One of those cards, and your dad got it, and that was the only one we saw the entire game.
Right, and so it was his last round, so it didn't even matter.
Yeah. So that's the only problem I saw with it. I thought it was a neat idea. I just think that the fact that it was introduced late in the process, and you've got all those Tapestry cards, that there's so many of them, the odds of one coming up is going to be slim.
Yeah, and then I hated giving up a landmark for it to advance. No offense, because there was multiple. There was one of the green cards that you can put a landmark and you get the special ability, and the same thing with the technology. Landmark UK, you can automatically upgrade this. But I liked my landmarks. It filled up my board. I don't know what people's problems are. Like I said, I was not a fan of that one.
I will say I did really enjoy playing, I had the Cavern, which had special rules. I like the fact that they introduced that because, if you are someone who likes to fill boards like I do, it gives you an extra level of complexity for that you can move up to.
I like filling my boards too, but alas, stupid, all my landmarks had to go to other places. Overall, scoring wise, I still like this game a bunch.
I enjoy playing it every time we play. I still have a problem with some of the balance issues. I think they've done as best as they can. I think it's fine if you take Futurists out. I think that's the one card that causes me the most grievance of this game. We've not played with it for a long time. We pulled it out. I like this game so much better without it. So it's our house rule that we play. We don't play the Futurists because they get what we feel like is a distinct advantage, even with the adjustments, because they've gone through and they've added civilization adjustments. And this would be probably my other problem with it is all these are for the older sets. The new sets, if there's any balancing issues, since this is the final run of it, we're not probably never going to see an adjustment for those, or if we do, it's not going to be in the rule book. Unless they decide to print another complete rule book.
And they may do it to where, if they do, maybe they could, buy the final rule book. Because I would pay for, a hard copy of an updated rule book if need so. Heck, charge me $10. I'll, get it to where it's
I'm
more.
hoping that they're fully balanced, and everything works fine.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see an issue with the two I had. I didn't feel like one was super, outweighed another.
Yeah.
But I only saw two. I think y'all, the ones that you guys played made a lot of sense. So I felt like probably, but we don't know until we get a lot more playthroughs. Scoring wise, I still love this game. I'm giving it a 9. I can't help it.
I'm going to move back up a little bit because I think I gave it a 7 before because of the issues with balancing. Because I think they've done as best they can to try to balance this after the fact, and we're really weighing in the new ones. And I think they've done a good job of getting a more complete package with it now, with all of the sets included. I'm going to go ahead and move it up to an 8. I think they've done a good job. And I think I enjoy this game every time we play it.
I know.
And even when it's not balanced. But I still would prefer it to be balanced. But
unless you're the one with the unbalanced thing.
Yeah. This one doesn't bother me nearly as bad as Planet Unknown does. So.
Don't be messing with such a good game.
Everybody likes it. I agree. I'm in the minority on this one.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal game.
I have too many issues with the way
I know.
It's
you
totally
never let me
balance.
play it. Maybe that's what I need to run at Gen Con. I got to.
You'll be popular. I know that because that's a huge game this year. But it's just one that I personally think has some serious faults with the balancing on it. But this is not a review of that game. We've already done that.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast. Have you guys played Tapestry with the 2 newest things? And if you did, what did you guys think about it? Well, we hope to catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.